Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm Audrey.
We both love wine,
But we have some different views.
which is why this series is called His
And hers.
Wine. This week, Audrey and I have kind of a unique opportunity to talk about something because we're hosting an event.
Yes, we are.
We're not the whole host. This is one of those events where there's a thing that's going to be happening,
Right.
and we have reserved a spot at the thing, and we've invited guests,
So we're setting the table.
and we have to provide food and drink.
Right. Just reception type food and drink, not a meal.
Right. So how many people are coming?
Right now, it's small. We're talking less than 10 people. This is a small, intimate group, very casual.
Well, we think that's the number of people coming. So
Uh-oh.
before we get into the wine, this is something that is sort of a personal pet peeve of mine. And that is the fact that when you invite adult Americans to an event and you ask them, are you going to come or not? The only answer you won't get is yes or no. I mean, you'll get, oh, can we do it a different day? Or can I bring my kids? Or I can't make it at this time, can I come later? Or 1,000 different answers. But the worst is maybe.
Oh, it's not helpful at all.
Social media has given us the maybe button that you can say, maybe I'll come, which I think means I'm not going to come. There's no way I'm coming. But I'm too polite to say so I'm going to
Right.
pretend that I want to come, but I'm not going to make it.
I do read that as I'm embarrassed, or I don't want to be, I'm trying to be polite. I do read it kind of that way. But for planning an event, it is hard to know.
Right. Maybe I'll get food and drink for you and a spouse or kids or maybe some other people that you might bring. But even if you could look at the list and you could say, okay, the yeses are coming, the nos are not coming, the maybes aren't coming, count them as nos. You still don't know how many people are coming because half of the people who say yes,
They're not coming.
some of the people who say no,
Might show up.
with 3 guests,
Ooh,
right?
that'd be a surprise.
You know? Or
Yes.
different people. So you've invited somebody and a +1, and instead they brought 3 buddies from work. Anyway,
Well, that's part of the planning, though, is you usually try to be flexible.
Right.
It's a challenge. Absolutely, it is a challenge. If you're doing a formal event, you have the RSVPs, and I know it's not like people used to be. You said your mother was always very
Oh,
strict with her RSVPs.
in my mother's world, if you RSVP'd yes, you were going.
Yes,
If you RSVP'd no, you weren't going.
it was a promise.
And if the invitation said adults, no children, there were no children. I mean, that was the law. The
Yes.
RSVP was the law.
Right.
We don't have that.
Not necessarily,
No.
but we try. Be thoughtful of your host when you RSVP. But that being said, I think that some of it depends on the level of the event too. Most people for wedding events are a little bit more cognizant. They're more thoughtful when they're RSVPing for that because
Right.
it is a lot more involved for the host for that.
But just know, when you go to click that maybe button,
Don't do it.
you are really irritating the host. You're saying to the host, I hate you.
No,
I
just say
hate
yes
you,
or no.
and I want you to be guessing all the way up to halfway through the event whether you're
Okay,
going to show up.
nobody's going to want to come to any of our events anymore.
All right.
Okay, all right. This is a casual event we're having, but there are different ones. We should probably talk about how you vary between on a casual event or a more formal event.
Sure, this is an
Very
outdoor
different.
one. People are going to be dressed probably the way we're dressed now.
Yeah.
And might have some finger food and hors d'oeuvres, might have some wine. Maybe some might bring kids. We want to have sodas there or other types of drinks. And that's a good question. If people are going to bring the children, should you ask them, hey, what do your kids drink? If they don't allow their kids to drink soda, do you want to have a cooler full of cherry Coke?
Right, and I tend to have waters on hand for kids, but if there's something special, I usually just ask it in that way. Is there something special that you think would be good for me to have on hand for your kids?
All right.
And let them go from there.
All right, but so an event like ours, we know that some of the people, if they come, are very serious about the wine. They know wine. They're people that we know. Some of them are in the wine industry, and we want to show off for them. Other people could care less. If there's wine, if there's a beer, they don't care. So how do you approach that?
Well, I start out with having some basic red and white on hand, just because there's always going to be white wine drinkers and red wine drinkers. Also, if you're outside, I tend to do heavier on the white than I would normally be, just because the warm weather and people want to have the white to sip on outside. It's just more user friendly in the summertime, springtime, outdoor kind of events. So I have more of that on hand that I would usually not have. But if you have special bottles, I choose to kind of save those at a special time, like however your evening is going. If there's a special time that you can say, okay, we've socialized and now there's some particular break. For ours, it's like a sports event. So there's just, half times. There's a break in there somewhere that we can actually take time to get everyone's attention and say, hey, it's time, we wanted to break on this bottle of bubbly. We wanted to share this with you.
I'm also a big believer of hiding the good stuff, because
Okay.
the people who don't know wine, God love them, and there's things that, of course, obviously we don't know anything about, but for some reason they always grab the most expensive bottle and they guzzle it like Gatorade, and then they leave early, and the wine people are sort of left drinking the...
Bless the people that bring us a good bottle. Whether they think we're going to truly appreciate it, bless them, love them. But that's kind of what I call the Halloween method. I get the candy together, and whatever candy I like the most is the last one I give out.
That's right.
I'm
You put
always
the good candy in
hoping
the bottom of the bag.
I'm always hoping all the kids will be gone by then.
Right.
Anyway.
So,
On a
you
serious
need
note.
the good candy to bribe the older kids who are out later, so that they don't trash your house, right?
Okay. At some point, we got to give
right.
actual.
So yes.
Talk.
So we talked about having a nice mix of red and white.
Right.
Another one that's really nice to have. It'll be a little bit of a surprise. You want to be a little bit different. Just have a nice rosé on hand. Summertime,
Yes.
warm weather rosé, nice chilled rosé can be wonderful.
Definitely. I think that goes in with the whites, and a lot of people really enjoy that. I might get a couple of bottles of that. I think that's a good one to have at summer and springtime events, especially also bridal showers, brunches, rosés.
Now, here's a question: how many bottles do you need?
Okay, so there's mathematical equations. A standard bottle of wine, and we're talking just a standard bottle. This is our normal standard bottle size. It's 750 milliliters. There should be, what you average is 5 glasses within that one bottle. They base that off of like a 5-ounce pour. That's how they get that. And restaurants, I guess, train you to do that kind. But that's what it's based off of. So
you've got a glass. I know it's off camera. Is that a 5-ounce pour?
yeah, it might be about a 5-ounce pour.
So show that, and that's what we're looking at. So we're talking about 5 of those in one bottle.
And I say about, it could be just slightly more, but you're pretty close with this. Pretty
Okay.
close with that.
So how many? So if you have 10 guests and you've got both reds and whites, how many bottles of each do you think you need for those? Just to be safe.
So you actually plan out how many hours you're going to have the event. And especially like big events like weddings, you say that everybody drinks an average of 1 drink per hour. This sounds crazy because we know, oh my gosh, we're going to drink so much more than that. Truthfully, you drink more at the beginning of the event, and then everybody kind of slows and backs off. They're not drinking as much toward the end, or some people leave early, so it is an average.
Unless you're one of my brothers.
Right. However, they're having beer. So that's an average. So it's an average to stick by. The other thought on that, though, is you have to know your guest about how to do that for reds or whites. If you're, like I said, in the summer and springtime, I'm heavier on the whites, not as much on the reds, and vice versa in the winter. If I'm having an indoor event in the winter, I tend to do more reds than I would do whites.
So who drinks more, red wine drinkers or white wine drinkers?
They're both getting it done. They are.
Okay, so there's no hedging there.
Yep.
All right, now let's flip this on its head.
Okay.
Okay. Let's say you're a guest, you've been invited to an event like this. Now I'm going to give you a multiple choice problem here. So the first problem is you've been invited to our event. It's an afternoon, it's on a Saturday, it's a casual dress. What am I showing up with? Am I showing up with a $400 Chateau Margaux?
No.
What am I showing up with?
You would be probably showing up with a mid-level type of thing because you're not having a formal meal, but you're also wanting to be gracious for your guest. So you're wanting to bring them something nice. If you were bringing in something more top shelf, you would want them to take that home and share just between the two of them. You wouldn't want them to feel committed there. And normally, when you bring something to the host, they normally do open it and share at that event, and they want to share with you. It's part of that.
And that brings up another bit of etiquette, and that's that one, you don't want to bring something, horrible, like, box Grenache or something. Not that people who love box Grenache, if you like it, you like it. But you don't want to bring something that's too low scale, but you also don't want to show the host up. If the host has planned out wines that they're going to be serving throughout the event, you don't want to show up with something that's so much more over the top that it outshines what they've done.
Yeah, but I think that's more of how you introduce it to your guest. You shouldn't just bring it and set it on the table and walk away.
Right.
You should be actually gifting it or presenting it to your host. So if you're presenting it with, this is something special I want for you, the two of you to share later, something like that.
That's a gift.
That's a gift. Or you can say, I brought something that I thought you would really enjoy. Feel free to save it or use it tonight if it works with what you're having.
Right.
Okay, but you need to get that kind of wording so they know what the expectation is also. They don't want to be rude and not open your bottle, right? So you have to present it in that way to give them the option and let them know that this is just a courtesy that you're doing, and either way that they choose is fine.
And here's a little tip for you, a little etiquette tip. If you've been invited to a dinner at someone's home, you present that bottle to the lady of the house. That's the format.
Gentleman.
You bring it and you present it to the lady of the house. The bottle of scotch you present to the man of the house.
Oh man, that's a little bit chauvinistic. I like scotch too.
That's true. So let's say it is a more formal event.
Okay.
You're having, you brought up bridal shower.
Right.
Now, bridal shower, you're going to have mostly women, but they're going to be of varying ages.
Right.
Do you have a consideration? Do people at different ages have different preferences that we're looking for?
So there are things like bridal showers, birthday parties, weddings, pretty much in some way, that it's in honor of a particular person. So you should be considering what their likes and dislikes are. A lot of times they've got a lot of their friends, so if they have a particular thing they like, if the bride herself loves a particular thing, you should have a few bottles of that, even if it's only for the bridal table. And that could be, she likes Moscato, she likes something that's a little bit sweeter than other people. Let her have it, it's her day.
And that box of Grenache for the mother of the bride.
Absolutely. She loves it. She should have that. She should have
the
that.
whole box to herself.
All to herself, she is fine. But seriously, I think that's a good consideration for a bridal shower. Whatever that bride likes, most likely her friends are going to be okay with that as well. So you should at least have a few bottles so that they get to have what they like at their event. But also, people tend to hang out with people that like the same stuff, so it's a safe thing to do.
And I think obviously a formal sit-down dinner that you've invited people to, whether that be Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner or a special event dinner that you're going to be cooking a big meal, that you approach very differently than, say, our event this weekend.
Right. You do. You approach it differently, and generally the size of the crowd, when it's a bigger crowd, you're being more general with your choices. When you have a small, intimate, casual group, you can bring some of your favorites and you're like, hey, I have a Malbec, have you ever tried one? It's fantastic. When you're at a big, large event, you do try to stick to some standard things that everybody knows. So if you're having only one red, you might choose a Cabernet because that is just the most common standard that people who like red would want.
But a good one.
But if somebody likes red, they would go to that. If you have a large event and you're working with a budget, the more different wines you choose, the more complex, and it's not going to work well. you don't know how that's going to play out, and you'll end up running out of one particular wine and having too much of another. So the more, if you really feel like you need to have two choices of red, okay, don't go any more than that. Really, try to be as simple as possible, but stick with the standards. If you're going to have one red, the Cabernet is the most common go-to. If you're going to have one white, there are a few different things there that you could do, but the most generalized is going to be a Pinot Grigio, because it does not offend anyone in any way. Sauvignon Blancs, there are so many different varieties. You could get ones that people are just not going to be happy with. Chardonnay is the same. Chardonnay is so versatile. But I would go Pinot Grigio, or even a Picpoul, by the way. A Picpoul is one.
That's a unique one.
It is a unique one, but it has that same dry white wine, and I say dry, just not overly sweet. But it is refreshing and delicious, and it's going to pair with any of the white chickens and seafoods and things that you have.
We're going to have to do an episode just on Chardonnay, and the reason is because it's so varied.
It's the most versatile for a winemaker.
Versatile for a winemaker. It's done in so many different ways
Yes.
that if you tell somebody you have a bottle of Chardonnay, that can mean anything. So we're going to have to do a special just on Chardonnay.
Yes, I would love that. Would you be okay with that?
I'd be okay with that.
Okay.
Let me ask you this question, though. Last question
Yes.
for the event. Hosting or guesting, either one. Bubbly.
Okay.
Okay. Should you have bubbly at an event?
Bubbly is good. By the way, on the bubbly, you should expect to get 6 pours out of a bottle of that.
Okay.
So 6 pours for that. I like to have that. It's a celebratory thing to do. Again, though, that's one that is so common to have in toast that you would want to have that everybody that is there is able to at least have 1 glass. So when you're counting that out, you're counting how many people you've got. Whether you want to serve it throughout the evening, that's a budgetary thing, because they're fantastic. They're great as an appetizer course. They're great after the meal. It's great as a celebration. But you're going to have to figure out what its use is, and then calculate if you have enough for the people that you're, especially if you're going to do a toast.
And you know that I love bubbly.
Yes,
And
you
I
do.
think every situation, whether you're dressed like us and you're just with friends, breaking out a bottle of bubbly is great. You're right, it's celebratory. So it
Yes.
makes any event that you're having just a little more joyful.
That's a good point.
It is
Good
just a little
point.
bit more joyful. It doesn't have to be announcing some big event. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be toasting somebody's, having a baby or something. It can be just, hey, we're all together, and that's a reason to celebrate. Let's break out some bubbly. My version is always going to be a champagne.
Of course.
Not always, though. There are times when other bubbly is just fine. If you're at a brunch, a nice cava or a nice prosecco, if you like prosecco, there's a big rivalry between those two, which we're going to do a bubbly special. Don't worry.
Yes.
But I like having some actual champagne, and there's some real French champagne from Champagne that doesn't break the bank. You can break the bank. There's some stuff out there that is really top shelf, top expensive. But you can have a nice bottle of French champagne for about the same price as you would get a bottle of some of the Virginia wines.
Could be. This is a challenge for us.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just line up a bunch and taste them.
We'll have to do that. But for our
Great
event,
idea.
we want to plan for the number of people.
Yes.
We want to figure about 5 glasses per bottle, or 4 glasses per bottle, unless it's champagne. No, 5. I'm wrong. I'm getting this wrong.
Okay. What are you trying to do again?
How many
Champagne?
glasses per bottle? No, for regular wine.
5 glasses for a regular
6
bottle of
for the
wine.
champagne.
6 for champagne.
6 for champagne. And then we're going to do a mix of reds and whites. And we're going to be, if we have specific food pairings, we're going to gravitate toward that. Otherwise, we're going to try to be more general and more accommodating, and we're hiding the good stuff till the end.
That works. And for the casual evening, I think where a lot of it is just sipping. We're not really food pairing for this because it's just a light fare reception. So I think it'll be actually easier to do. It's not very complex when it's a casual small group.
Now, here's the last tip from me,
Okay.
and that's that you and I both know, that people start leaving when the wine runs out.
Ah.
So if you want people to leave, plan for the wine to run out. So do plan not only to have enough, but
While
also for it to
hiding the
run
good
out.
bottle.
While hiding the good bottle.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, before we break, what are we drinking tonight?
Well, you saw me already raising my glass. Sorry, I am sipping, but I am on red today, and I decided to break open my decoy cab. This is one that I had for my everyday sipping wines and sipping, food pouring, whatever. My on stock. This is great. Also great for an event, by the way. It's a good standard. It's going to please everybody.
I, on the other hand, just to be contrarian, am drinking white. I am drinking a Portuguese white. It's actually one that we import.
Yes.
It's a lovely, lovely Portuguese wine. It's a white
It's
wine
great.
from the Lisboa, central Portugal region.
Mhm.
Absolutely delicious. I sneak a bottle of these out of our stock every
Yes.
once in a while just because I have to have some myself. Can't
We
just
have to sample it again.
have to sample. I have to make sure that we're sampling the right stuff. All
Yes.
right.
All
Well,
right.
cheers.
Cheers.
Now, a couple of announcements. One, obviously, if oh god, that's good. I love that stuff. If you like what we're doing, you want us to keep making these, hit the buttons like, share, follow, whatever else. Do that, please. Also, we have been requested to provide links to a list of the wines or a list of wines that we're using and talking about each one of these shows. So we're going to start doing that, and I may take the old ones down and add that to it so that we can have that for you. So.
All right,
All right.
so look for that to come. All right, so no matter what your view, just enjoy.